If you wanted to know what the very first Swiss Army knife looked like, the one that started it all, then look no further than this. In here is the Replica 1897 Swiss officer's knife, created to commemorate the 125 years since it all began. So a quick bit of history. The founder, Carl Elsener, opened a cutler's workshop making knives and cutlery in the village of Eibach in Switzerland in 1884. The company at that time was called Elsener Schwyz, and Schwyz is the area in Switzerland in which Eibach resides. 13 years later, in 1897, 125 years ago, the Swiss officer's knife was born, and that was the start of the Swiss Army knife as we know it today. So in here is a limited edition replica of that first Swiss Army knife, and this one is on loan from the Victorinox distributor in the UK, so a big thank you to them for letting me play with their knife. First thing to note is that the packaging is exceptional for Victorinox, not normally known for their packaging, but they've really pushed the boat out here. And if I remove this sleeve, we can see immediately reference to the year when the first officer's knife was made, 1897, and the current year, which is 2022. Open these up and they move to the side, and we have here some vintage photographs of the factory at Eibach. And no Elsener Schwyz here, Schwyz being the location the factory is in and Elsener being the name of the founder. Then we have a brief timeline from 1884 when the factory was first established, 1897 when this knife was launched, and 2022, the current year. And then we have reference to the 125 years between then, when this knife was first made, and now. And the knife is held in this here, which is referred to as a time capsule to denote the passing of the years. And then in here at the back, we have some information. And you'll notice here we have a 4-digit number out of 9,999, which is the total limited edition run of this replica, and this one is 7579. Then we have warranty and instructions and a certificate of authenticity. So if we get the knife out and open it up, the first thing we see is a cloth pouch. I'm guessing this is what accompanied the original knife. And then we have the knife itself. And the first impressions are that the fit and finish on this knife is exceptional. And it looks like here we have wooden scales, but that's not the case. This is the same material that was used in this knife when it was launched 125 years ago. And it's called a vulcanized fiber. It's made from a cellulose plant material. There's no resins or glues in here. Plastic had not yet been invented. So designed as a tough and hard-wearing military work knife, these vulcanized fiber scales are stronger than wood, used where resilience and strength is important, and a fairly recent innovation of the day. And it's a real testament to Victorinox that they've gone to the trouble of using this material on this knife to maintain that authenticity of the original. The length on this knife is 91mm, exactly the same as the medium-sized Victorinox of today, and the weight here is 83 grams, and it feels heavy, robust, really solid in the hand. The pins here are nickel silver, just like the original, and the liners are nickel silver as well, I believe, although I think when this was first launched they were brass and subsequently changed to nickel silver. You'll notice there's no scale tools here and no keyring loop, that came much later. There's also no Victorinox shield, and that's because at this stage the company was not called Victorinox. The Victorinox logo, which is the cross and the shield, appeared, I believe, around about 1909. As far as the name Victorinox goes, you have to look to 1921. The name comes from a combination of Elsner's mother's name, which was Victoria, and the newly created stainless steel, which is now found in every Victorinox knife, which at the time was called Inox. Combine Victoria and Inox, and that's where you get Victorinox. And that points to what you might say is the big difference between the original and this replica, and that is the fact that the original used a carbon steel and the replica uses stainless steel. Let's quickly run through the tool set. Let's start with the knife. This is sometimes referred to as a spear point or drop point, and I believe the shape is slightly different to the original, being narrower around this section. You'll see the stamping here on the tang is representative of the original Elsner Schwyz branding. Then we have here the screwdriver, pry tool, scraper, a very thick tool, very practical. You'll notice there's no bottle opener or other functionality, all that came later. Again, we do have a marking on here representative of the original, and this is in German, and as I understand it means legally protected. Then here we have a can opener, not a bottle opener, no other functionality built in. This is the original can opener, and this works in a very different way to the ones we see today. This goes into the side of the cans that were designed to open in that way, and you pierce the side of the can near the top, push this in, and then you lever your way round, cutting into it. This is the cutting edge here, and this part holds onto the outside of the can as you go around. So a very different way of opening cans than we see today. Then we have a secondary blade, different profile. This is a clip point profile. It's nice to see different profiles when you've got two blades. It seems a little bit of a missed opportunity, I always think, to have two identical blades of different sizes. Bearing in mind a different profile can give you an advantage depending on what you're using it for. And as we see in today's knives, the main blade offsets, so the smaller blade can sit in alongside in the single layer here. Then as we look to what we would call the back side, we have a very nice all-stroke reamer, quite a fat tool, again feels really substantial. Just to compare it with today's awl, you can see it is quite different. The old one is actually longer, and a very thick tool, as you can see. The new one has a sewing eye and this blade edge, so you can see they've started to add more functionality over time to make each tool really justify its place in the knife. Nevertheless, that looks really capable, and I think it will make a great reamer. And then we have the final tool, which is the corkscrew, and you can see that is very different from the corkscrews of today. This is truly like a screw, and I really like the design, but I understand this has more propensity to damage a cork, probably because it effectively drills out the cork, so you don't get as much grip on the cork as you do with this current version. And you also miss out on the fact that the current version is hollow, and then you have an option to put some extra tools in there, and that's a function I really like about today's Victorinox knives. The fact that the hollow corkscrew can be used to store, in this case, some fire tinder and an eyeglass screwdriver. You don't get the additional functionality you get with today's corkscrew, and I think this functions better as a corkscrew, but this one does look really stylish and really of the period. That is the tool set. A 2-layer knife. My favorite Victorinox knife is the compact, which is also a 2-layer 91mm knife, although I have to say I do prefer the tool set on the compact. Under the corkscrew, you'll notice we've got some laser printing here by the looks of it, and we've got 1897 to denote the original year of manufacture of the original. Then we've got 7579, which is the serial number of this knife out of 9,999. So this is a limited run of 10,000. 10,000 doesn't sound like a limited run, but this company produces 45,000 knives a day, and that equates to 10 million folding knives a year. So 10,000 is actually a drop in the ocean for Victorinox, and when you consider the effort that's gone into producing this knife, all of these tools have been created from scratch for this knife. That's a huge amount of investment, because it's the planning, the designing process, the creation of the individual tools to make it all work, and then the production process and the finishing process to make this a high quality, beautiful knife, which this one is. To me, all of that sounds like a huge amount of effort for what is a relatively low number of pieces, and that does feed through into the price, as you might expect. This in the UK on the Victorinox website is £360. That includes VAT. I understand the selling price in America is $500. Now, I did try to buy one and they've been out of stock in Europe from the day they were launched. I assume they haven't already exhausted their 10,000 capacity, so I imagine there will be a little bit more going into production. So I'm sure there will be some availability. Having said that, I did notice today that there is one selling on eBay for 5 times the original price. So a lot of money for a single knife of this type, but this is a collector's piece, and it is a beautiful piece of work at that. If though you really like the functionality and can't stretch to the replica, then you could always consider the knife which has followed the replica through the last 125 years, matching this functionality, and that is the Victorinox Spartan, and that you can get for a very affordable £23 in the UK, so I imagine that will be sub $30 in the US, and on balance sounds like amazing value. This one's got to go back now, which is a bit of a shame, but I've really enjoyed having the opportunity to have a look at this close up. If you want to see some more of my Victorinox reviews, then check out this playlist here. That's it for this one. I hope that's been useful. Thank you as always for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.